This video is sponsored by Hostinger. In this video we're going to make a very simple boss fight. It will have multiple stages and increasing difficulty. I've used this system in both the FPS game and the top-down shooter games I made recently. Let's begin! Our goal here is to make a really cool boss fight with various stages. Boss fights can be really unique, so after you follow this video and make your own super cool unique boss fight, then you can make a WebGL build to share it with your friends and host it on a website which you can get through Hostinger. Hostinger provides best-in-class hosting services that are extremely fast and very affordable with excellent customer support to help you succeed. Choose from a variety of plans and pick the one that best suits your needs. Making a website from scratch can be hard, but Hostinger makes this much easier by supporting WordPress. With just a few clicks, you can use the auto installer to get WordPress installed on your website. Then you can pick from a giant selection of templates to quickly get started, and then customize the website to exactly as you want it. Here, for example, I have easily built a simple website by customizing a template. One excellent WordPress feature is how you have these buttons to swap between desktop, table, and phone displays, so you can rest assured that your website will look great on any device. Also, if you're making some really cool online integration for your game, then check out their super fast and affordable cloud hosting solutions. All the plans come with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try out the services without any risk. Go to hostinger.com/codemonkey and use the coupon CODEMONKEY to get up to 91% off yearly web hosting plans. Click the link in the description and succeed faster. Using the link helps support the channel. So thank you to Hostinger, and also thank you to these awesome supporters for making this video possible. Go to patreon.com/unitycodemonkey to get some perks and help keep the videos free for everyone. Okay, so here's what we want to make. I have my player character that I can move around and shoot. And now inside this door, I have the boss battle area. So as I go in, there you go, there's the boss battle. He's a nice turret. And as soon as I go in, the door closes behind me and he starts aiming at me and tries to shoot me. Some enemies also get spawned, as you can see. And if I deal enough damage and shoot, and there you go, now we enter into the second stage of our boss battle. And we have more and more enemies being spawned, as well as some shield transformers in order to stop the boss from being shot. Okay, so I took out all of the transformers and now the boss battle is vulnerable. So now I shoot him and now there you go. Now we have another shield that we need to take care of. So we are now on the third stage. Okay, so as I take out this transform, there you go. Now he's vulnerable on the final stage. And as I shoot him and shoot him again, and there you go, all the enemies die instantly and the battle is over. Alright, so that's very intense, but it's very nice. And now in here, the enemy drops a key as he's dead. So now I can pick up the nice blue key, and I go in, I open the door, and I go in, I have my nice trophy, I pick it up, and I've won this nice minigame. Alright, awesome. If you haven't seen it yet, then go play the top-down shooter game I made recently to see this boss fight in action in a complete game. In the page where you play the game, you can also see links to all of the elements used. For example, you saw me using the key door system, as well as the animated outline effect. So what we're going to build here is similar to the battle system we made previously. This boss battle is essentially a more expanded version of that concept. Now, boss fights are very tricky to show in a tutorial video because each is so unique. So here we're going to make a specific type of boss fight, but what I want you to learn from this is how to think through the logic rather than follow this exact format. As long as you understand the core logic behind how to set up multiple stages, you can then apply it to your own unique boss fights. Alright, so this is our goal. Let's get to it. Okay, so here's our starting scene. I have my player character and I can walk around, I can aim and shoot. Over here is the enclosed enemy boss area. So this is where we're going to have our nice boss fight. Okay, so first of all, let's just place an enemy turret prefab. Over here I have the prefabs and let's just place the turret right down the middle. Alright, let's see this in action. Okay, so here I am, and as I approach the turret, yep, there you go, he sees me, he starts aiming, and he starts shooting. Alright, so far so good. Now let's make our boss battle. So here, let's make a new C# script, call this our boss battle, and let's make a new game object, and attach the script onto it. Okay, now here, let's start off by just identifying when the battle should start. So for that, we can use the same logic that we used in the battle system video. So check the link in the description if you haven't seen it yet. In that video, we created a simple script to capture physics triggers. So here we're going to use the exact same logic. So here is the script we made in that video. As you can see, it's very simple. We just have a onTrigger enter 2D to test if the player entered the trigger. And if so, then we fire off this event. So back in the editor, let's make a game object to hold our trigger. So let's drag the script onto it, okay. And now we just need to add a box collider 2D and make it isTrigger. And let's also set the layer to ignore raycast so it doesn't block our shooting. And just like that, we have our trigger working. So the player enters this area. It will trigger that event on that script. So now we can go back into the boss battle script. And here let's add a field for our trigger. And we simply subscribe to that event. And in that event, let's start a battle. And after we start, let's unsubscribe to that event so we don't start the battle multiple times. Alright, so this should be working. We just need to drag our reference. So here in the editor with the boss battle, we just drag the reference in there. Okay. Alright, so let's test. So here I am, and as I approach and enter the trigger, yep, there you go, we have our start battle. Alright, awesome. So here we have another great example of the power of writing clean code. This script is very basic and only focused on a single task, which allows us to easily use it and reuse it in many scenarios. Okay, so we have our start battle working. Now when we start, let's spawn some enemies. So over here I already have a bunch of enemy prefabs. So let's add a field to reference our prefabs. So here in our script, let's start with just one. And here in the editor, let's drag our reference. Let's use the archer enemy. Okay. Now let's make a simple spawn enemy function. And now we need the position. So for now, let's just try a specific point. And after spawning, we need to do like we did on the battle system video, which is they have this enemy spawn script. This is what enables a nice dissolve effect and then makes them active. So we simply call the spawn in order to actually spawn it. Okay, so now when we start our battle, let's also spawn an enemy. So as we enter our trigger, we should be able to see an enemy being spawned. Let's see. Okay, here we are. And as I move up and enter the trigger, and yep, there you go. There's the enemy being spawned. And now he's spawned, chasing and attacking me. All right, great. So now that we can spawn an enemy in a specific position, let's spawn it in a random position instead. So back in the editor, let's use some simple game objects to identify our various spawn positions. So inside the boss battle game object, let's make a new empty game object. Call this our spawn positions. And inside, let's add a bunch of game objects which will represent the various spawn positions that the enemies can spawn in. So just one. So for example, let's say an enemy can spawn in here. And in order to visually see them, we can go all the way up here to the inspector and select an icon. So let's say this one, and there you go. Now we can visually see. And now let's place all of the spawn positions. All right, so just like this, we have a whole range of spawn positions. Now that we have them all placed, let's grab them through code. So in our boss battle script, let's make a list of vector 3s for our spawn positions. Alright, so first we construct our list, and then we cycle through all of the children inside our spawn positions container, and we simply add them to the list. Alright, so now we have a nice list of vector 3s for all of our spawn positions. And then down here, when we are spawning an enemy, let's grab a valid spawn position. Alright, so we simply grab a random position from inside of our list. So just like this, we should be able to have our enemies spawning in random positions. And now just for testing, let's try spawning a bunch of enemies constantly. So for that, we can use a class in the utilities. As always, you can download the utilities for free from unitycodemonkey.com. And in the utilities, we have the function periodic, which automatically triggers a function every certain amount of time. So this is perfect in this case. Let's call the function spawn enemy, and let's call it every, let's say, half a second. So every half a second, this function will be triggered, which will spawn an enemy on a random position. Okay, let's test. Okay, here we are, and as I move up, and there you go, the battle has started. Let's hide in here and see if enemies are being spawned. And yep, there's one there, one there, one there. And they're spawning all over the place. Now one down here and there and there. Alright, so awesome. Now we have way too many enemies, but yep, they are all being spawned automatically in random positions. Alright, so now that we have the start of the battle and the enemies being spawned, let's handle these stages for our boss battle. So the first thing we need to do is define what the stages are based on. So in this case, we're going to make it based on the turret health. Now, one of the elements that make up the turret is the health system. This was actually my very first video on the channel, and I'm using that class here. So again, that tells you the power of writing clean code. So first in our boss battle, let's add a field to grab our turret. So then we access the turret, we get the health system. And now let's subscribe to the on damage event. So this event is fired whenever the turret takes damage. So when that happens, let's see if we should go into the next stage. So to handle our stages, let's make a simple state machine. So all the way up here, let's define an enum. Alright, so we have an enum for all of our stages, including our waiting to start stage. We store them in a field, and by default we start on waiting to start. And when he takes damage, let's see if we should go into the next stage. So here, if the turret is under 70% health, then we want to go into the next stage. So let's make a function to handle moving to the next stage. Alright, so here we're doing a simple switch on the current stage and we're going to the next one. So if we're waiting, we go to stage 1. If we're stage 1, go to 2, 2 to 3, and so on. So on the start battle, we can also use this function. Since when we start, we're going to be on waiting to start. So we start the next stage and we go from start to stage 1. And then here, when the enemy is under 70% health, then we go into the next stage. Do the same for all the others. And actually, we don't have on the stage 3 since that's when the enemy has died. So here we can also subscribe to the other event. So when the turret dies, we have the boss battle being over. Alright, so here our logic should all be working. Let's just add some debug logs so we can test this out. Now, so here we should not have default since we don't want anything to happen on stage 3. So get rid of that one and that one. Alright, this should be working. Let's test. Okay, so here we are, and as soon as we enter the trigger, yep, there you go, starting battle. So we started the battle and we went to stage 1. Now as I shoot him, and once he goes under 70%, there you go, stage 2. And now shoot him some more, and under 30, and he's on stage 3, and now kill him. And there you go, he's dead, and the boss battle is over. Alright, now let's also make sure we destroy all the enemies when the battle is over. So let's make that function in here, just called destroy all enemies. Now in order to destroy them, that means we also need to store a list of every time we spawn an enemy. So over here we have a list of our enemy spawns. And down here we cycle through it. Alright, so here we just cycle through the enemy list and we kill the enemy. And we make sure that we add it when we spawn an enemy. So we just need to call destroy all enemies over here when the boss battle is over. Alright, that should be working. Let's see if all of the enemies die when the boss also dies. Okay, here we are. Let's move up, and there you go. The battle has started. Enemies are spawning, and there's the enemy. Push it down to 70, down to 50. Keep shooting, and once he goes, boom, there you go. All the enemies died instantly. Alright, awesome. Now we still got another issue, which is enemies are still being spawned, so let's stop that. Over here on start battle, we're creating a function periodic in order to spawn every enemy once per second. Now this class already has a very easy way to stop it, which is I can assign a function name. And then when the battle is over, I can call stop all functions with a certain name. So that should stop the other function. Let's see. Okay, so here we are, and we go in, and there you go, the battle started, and shoot the turret. And just one more. There you go, they all died. And now let's see, and yep, no more enemies are being spawned. Alright, awesome. Okay, so our boss fight is coming along nicely. Now let's add the shield system to stop the player between stages. Alright, so I've added the shield. Now I covered how the shield visual works in a shader graph tutorial, so go check that out. So as you can see, we have the shield, and connected to it we have two transformers. And in the shield we have the shield field script. This one contains the links to the transformers as well as the lines that go to it. So here is the code for the shield field. As you can see, it's pretty small, just 80 lines long. On start, we subscribe to the onDestroyed functions. So whenever a shield transformer is destroyed, it goes into this function. It destroys all of the power lines connected to that transform, and we test if all of them are dead. And if all of them are dead, then we destroy the shield. So that's it, some very simple logic. So here in the editor, I have two shield setups. So the first one only has two transformers, and the second one has 4 transformers. So what we're going to do is enable the shield whenever a stage changes. So let's go into the code. Here in our boss battle script, let's go all the way up here, add some references for our shields. So I have a reference for the shield 1, the shield 2, and on start, let's start them hidden. So both shields are disabled, and then down here when we have the start next stage, when we go from stage 1 into stage 2, let's enable the first shield. And from 2 to 3, enable the second one. Alright, so all this should be working. We simply set the game object to active, and then all of the shield logic is handled by itself. And when transformers are destroyed, the shield gets destroyed, and the player can then continue shooting the turret, which goes into the next stage. Okay, let's test. Okay, here we are, and let's go in, and there you go, the battle's starting. Now, after I take him under 70%, there you go, the shield pops up. Now we have transformers, now shoot that one. Now I have to shoot the other one. And yep, he's gone. Now I can shoot the turret again. Once he goes under 30%, there you go. Now we got some more, and way too many enemies, but let's keep. And yep, they're all gone. Now shoot down, and there you go. They all died, and I won the nice boss battle. Alright, so here we have multiple stages working with our nice shield system. Awesome! So as you saw, the game became quite a lot difficult. That's mainly because the enemies are being spawned every second, so after a while the player can get massively overwhelmed. So let's make it more of a smoother difficulty curve. First of all, let's set a maximum to how many enemies can be spawned. So on the spawn enemy function, let's cycle through the enemy list to count how many are alive. Alright, so here we have some very simple logic. We're just going through the enemy spawn list, seeing how many are alive, and if more than a certain amount are alive, then we're not going to spawn anymore, and we simply return from this function. Okay, so for testing, let's put this lower and see if we can no longer spawn more than 3 enemies. Let's test. Okay, let's go up, and there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. Okay, let's see if any more get spawned, and nope, we don't have any more spawn enemies. Alright, awesome. So we can now limit how many enemies we have at once in order to make sure that our difficulty stays more stable. Okay, now let's set the limit back to something more reasonable. So let's say like 7. And then down here, let's also randomize the type of enemy. So to do that, let's add 2 more fields for over here. So we have the enemy shooter, archer, and charger. And now let's spawn them at different rates depending on the difficulty. So let's get a random number between 0 and 100. Okay, so here we have some very basic logic. We get a random between 0 and 100. By default, we choose a archer. Then if that number is under 65, then we choose a charger. And if it's under 15, then we choose a shooter. So we have a 15% chance of a shooter, then a 50% chance of a charger, and a 35% chance of an archer. Alright, let's test. Okay, let's go up and start the battle, and there you go. There's a charger, there's an archer, And let's see if we get a shooter. There's a shooter right there. All right, so we now have 3 different enemy types being spawned. Awesome. Now the game is still very difficult, so let's add some health pickups. I already have a simple prefab in here. Very simple, just has a script for a health pickup, as well as a circle collider set to trigger. So all we need to do is instantiate this prefab. So for that, let's go up here, add another reference. Okay, we have our reference to our health pickup. And now let's make a function to spawn it, and we're going to do pretty much the same thing that we did with the enemy. So we're going to get a random spawn position, and we're going to instantiate our prefab. Alright, so we just spawned it on a random position, and now let's also make a function periodic to trigger this one. Alright, this should be working. Let's test. Okay, here we are. Let's go up, and there's an enemy, there's our turret, and let's see, and yep, there you go, there's our health. And if I pick it up, and there you go, I get some health. Alright, awesome. So we now have random health pickups being spawned in order to keep our difficulty a bit better. But it still is quite insane, so let's make sure that the difficulty starts off slow and increases as we move on to different stages. So here, for example, on start, let's spawn 2 enemies as soon as it starts. And let's spawn the enemies much slower, so in here, let's say every 4 seconds. Then here we have the next stage from stage 1 to 2. Let's spawn a bunch more. Alright, so here we have a bunch of enemies being spawned, making a nice increasing difficulty curve. So in the first one we spawn 2 directly, then 1 every 4 seconds, as well as the nice health pickup. Then on 2 we start with the health pickup, then the enemy, then we spawn an enemy after a half second, 1.5, 4.5 and so on. And on the end one we spawn this much. Okay, let's test. Okay, so here we are, let's see. And as soon as I go up, there you go, the battle has started, and now we have 1 enemy in there and another one in there. So as you can see now it's much easier. So now I can try taking them all out. There we go, now we are on stage 2 and we got more enemies being spawned. Okay, so it's getting more difficult. Okay, so here we are on stage 2, and as I take him down, and we go into stage 3, and there you go, more shields, more enemies, more things. So now it's getting a lot more difficult. There we are, and we have a ton of enemies, and as I take out the sentry gun, and there you go, they all die instantly, and we win the nice boss battle. Alright, awesome. So everything is pretty much working. Now let's just polish this up a bit. Add a door on start and a door on exit, as well as a nice trophy. Okay, so here in the editor, I added this door down here, then this door, then we also have a key. Let's place the key on top of the enemy, and then we have a nice trophy. The door and key were made in the door key system video, so check that out. And now let's make some logic, for example, for this door to close as soon as the battle starts. To do that, let's go into our boss battle and make some events. Okay, here we have on the boss battle start and on the boss battle over. Okay, now let's make a script to connect these onto our doors. So let's make a new script. Alright, so here we have a very simple script. We have a reference to the door, the key game object, and the boss battle. On start, we hide the key game object. Then we subscribe to both the events on our boss battle. When the boss battle starts, we close the door and we set the call to red. And when the boss battle ends, then we show our key game object. So again, this is how we're doing a lot of connections between a lot of different types of objects without any of them knowing about the other. So the boss battle knows absolutely nothing about doors or keys or anything. Okay, let's test. Okay, so here we are, and there's our nice door being open, and as soon as I go in, the battle starts. There you go, the door closes automatically. Now we have our boss battle, so let's take care of it. Alright, let's go, kill him, and boom, there you go, he's dead. And yep, there's the key, it spawned automatically, and now I pick up the key, now I have the blue key, And over here we have the blue door. Let's use it, open it. And now we have our nice trophy and go in and we won this nice minigame. All right, awesome. So just like this, we have our complete, nice and simple boss fight. Again, as I said, boss fights are very specific and each is completely unique. So instead of following this directly, I hope you'll learn the logic for how to create your own custom boss fights. So the logic for how to set out multiple stages with multiple actions, multiple events, and everything. So now go ahead and make your own unique boss fight. Thank you to Hostinger, and also thank you to these awesome supporters for making this video possible. Go to patreon.com/UnityCodeMonkey to get some perks and help keep the videos free for everyone. As always, you can download the project files and utilities from UnityCodeMonkey.com. Subscribe to the channel for more Unity tutorials. Post any questions